11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called the Yoga of the Cosmic Form, or the Vishwarupa Yoga. We saw in the last chapter, 10th chapter, that Krishna revealed his divine opulence, as it is said. That is, Krishna revealed that everything that there is the expression of the same one supreme being that he is. And therefore he said, taking all aspects and everything that's great in each aspect is an expression of the same energy, which is the energy of the supreme being, Prakriti of Purusha. So we saw many examples such as a banyan among trees, shark among fish, Ram among archers, and so on. So now in the 11th chapter, Arjuna begins by asking, first he glorifies, he recognizes the glory of the supreme being that has come in the form of Krishna. So he says to Krishna, he says, you have spoken very supreme words. He says, through your supreme and most confidential words, my delusion is gone, and I also recognize that the source and the sustenance and dissolution of every single being is you alone. And therefore now he asks me, would you reveal yourself in this form? Krishna already described in words. So Arjuna is asking, would you reveal yourself in this divine form that is all encompassing, that reveals that you are indeed the cosmic being? He says, if you think I can see it, then please reveal it to me. So Krishna says, out of his immense compassion for Arjuna, he says, indeed you can see it. Behold, now you can see everyone in me, all the various beings, all the Adityas, Rudras. So it is said there are 11 Rudras, 12 Adityas. We saw even those listed in the Vibhuti Yoga, that is the 10th chapter, where Krishna said, I am Shankara among Rudras, I am Vishnu among Adityas, and so on. So all of these various beings, and all of them, Krishna says, you can behold everyone and everything in me. However, he says you have to have divine vision for that. You cannot see it with the normal vision. So Krishna bestows Arjuna with a divine vision. It's called Divya Chakshu. He says, Divyam dadami te chakshu pashyame yogam aishwaram. He says, I give you divine vision by which you can behold this opulence, yogam aishwaram, this yogic opulence. And then after that, Sanjaya actually narrates. So because, as we can recall, Sanjaya is narrating the happenings of the battlefield to Dhritarashtra, which is how Bhagavad Gita started. And so Sanjaya is now giving a commentary on what's happening, because there is no words now, only Arjuna is completely awestruck looking at the divine form of Krishna. So he says, when Krishna revealed this divine form, Sanjaya says this was a very bewildering and completely overwhelming form for Arjuna, because it had so many mouths. So suddenly Krishna is not there as in his sweet form, Krishna with his most graceful eyes and beautiful form. Instead of that, what suddenly manifested there was this universal form, and it had many eyes, many mouths, and many weapons. And not only that, he was wearing all kinds of various paraphernalia. Some of them were very pleasing, some of them were very one can say, fearsome, and he was extending all the way from earth to sky, and there was nothing that was left out. He was looking so all pervading, which is the essence of this form. The all pervading nature of the cosmic being is what's revealed. So he is not leaving anything, there is the entire space covered. And in this, it says Arjuna beheld the entire world, and with complete amazement, and with his hair standing on end, with goosebumps all over, Arjuna now finally starts uttering a few words. He says, "O Lord, I see in you everyone now. I see all the various deities, Brahma himself, the creator, and all the great sages, all the great celestial beings, everyone, everything there is seen in you. I behold you with many arms, many faces, many eyes." He says, Aneka Bahu Udara Vaktra Netram. So Bahu means arms, Udara means stomach, Vaktra means faces, Netra eyes. So you have infinite number of, I can't count it, you have so infinite number of eyes and faces and mouths and arms. You are extending in infinite directions. He says, Sarvato Ananta Rupam. Ananta means endless. You are endless. You are looking without any middle, any end. He says, Na Antyam, Na Madhyam, Na Punastavadim. He says, there is no end, no middle, no beginning. Pashyami Vishweshwara Vishwarupa. He says, I'm seeing you as not just the Lord of the universe, but the very universe itself. So this is the essence of the non-dual realization that creation and creator are one, and that is what is revealed by this vision. So in the famous Vishnu Sahasranama too, the very first name of Bhagavan is Vishwam. It says Vishwam Vishnur Vashatkaro Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu. So normally the tendency of the mind is to think the creator and creation are separate, and therefore various religions have come forth and posited God as residing in the heaven and controlling the world from outside and so on and so forth. But the right understanding, which is what Bhagavad Gita provides us, and through this vision Krishna reveals visually as well. So far it was revealed through words. As it is said, eyes are more powerful than ears in terms of taking information. It is rightly observed that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So when we see something, we consume a lot more information than we hear also. And that is why pictures are so powerful. And therefore Krishna is now revealing visually what has been revealed orally by showing this divine form wherein there is nothing other than him. And so therefore Arjuna rightly addresses him as Vishwarupa. He says, you are the not just the Lord of the universe, you are the very form of the universe. So when we recognize this, that the very form of the universe is the supreme being, the divine order that is present in the universe is the intelligence of the supreme being, then we do not have to look for God elsewhere because he is here and now. So this has already been revealed through words in Krishna. In the 6th chapter, he said, Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati. He says, one who sees me in everything and sees everything in me, tasyaham na pranashyami sachamena pranashyati. He said, the one who sees everything in me and me in everything, such a person never loses sight of me and never lost. He is always in the presence of God. So that is the true understanding of God, of divinity, of the supreme being. And that vision is revealed now to Arjuna and to all of us. In fact, if we can visualize it, then we can see that Krishna is expanding as the whole universe and revealing thereby that the entire order of the universe, made of everything right from the smallest atom to worms and flies and plants and animals to human beings to celestial beings to all the galaxies to the entire known universe, all of it is simply an expansion of the same one intelligence, which is the energy of the Supreme Being. So he says, I perceive you blazing in all directions with splendor. And he says in a very beautiful verse, you are the supreme imperishable, the only thing worthy of knowing, the ultimate ground of the universe, immutable, guardian of righteousness, and the everlasting spirit. He says, Tvam aksharam paramam veditavyam, Tvam asya vishwasya param nidhanam, Tvam avyaya shashvatam, dharma gopta sanatas sattvam purusho matome. So it's a every word is beautiful. Aksharam means imperishable, veditavyam, one who is worthy of knowing. Because as we said, if we know one thing, that everything is divine, we have known everything about the essence of the universe. Then we do not get bewildered by anyone or anything. We see that there are various expressions of the one divine cosmic being, and the various gunas are there as already described, but everything comes forth as an expression of the same one supreme being, and therefore that all is to be known. And it is avyaya, means immutable. Shashvata means eternal. So the forms keep changing, but the essence is eternal. That's why he's called the ground of the universe. He says Vishwasya param nidhanam. So you are the ground of the universe, and from you comes forth all the various beings, various forms. They keep on changing, and yet the ground remains the same. And he says, therefore I see rather no beginning, no middle, no end, only infinite, inexhaustible energy. He says, Anadi Madhya Antam Ananta Viryam. Anadi Madhya Antam means no beginning, no middle, no end. Ananta Viryam, infinite prowess. Ananta Bahum Shashishurya Netram. He says, even the sun and the moon are like your eyes. And I see you blazing, and the whole universe is radiant because of you. The space between earth and the sky is pervaded only by you, and every point in between is pervaded by you. He says, Vyaptam Twayi Ekena Dishascha Sarvaha. All directions of the universe are pervaded by you. In fact, the word Vishnu also has the meaning of one who pervades. So here the word Vyaptam is used. That's the root of Vishnu too. Sarvam Vyaptam iti Vishnuhu, it is said. So one who pervades the whole universe. So that's why here Arjuna says, you pervade the whole universe. And everyone is entering into you. He says, I see all the various devatas, sages, seers. They are all entering your being and offering obeisances unto you. The various classes of beings known as Rudras, Adityas, Ashwins, Maruts. So these are all various celestial beings who are all, one can say, personifications of various energies, and all energy has its source in the one supreme being, and therefore all these embodiments are all seen as finding their place, their subsistence in the supreme being. So even now, many times we use names for our personifications for even forces of nature. We say, for example, Hurricane Helene and things like that. So many forces of nature we call by names. So similarly, we can see that all the various deities are the personification of the various forces of nature that control them as such. So we can see that every force of nature, whether it's wind, Maruts represent wind, Agni represents fire, Ashwin represents the healing properties. So all of these various aspects are all found in the Supreme Being, which is Krishna in the cosmic form. And he says, I see you having everything as infinite, all your, as already mentioned, he repeats because he's so overwhelmed. He says, Bahu Udaram, Bahudashtram. He says, many bellies, many eyes, Bahu Bahu, many arms. So, Bahu Netram, many eyes. Then he says, I see you touching the sky. Nabasprisham Deeptam. This is a very interesting verse because I don't know if many are aware, but this is the motto of the Indian Air Force. They have taken this nice expression. So if you look at the Indian Air Force, they have this tagline which says Nabasprisham Deeptam. So which means the radiance that touches the sky. So that actually comes from what Arjuna says here in the Gita. He tells Krishna, your radiance is touching the sky. Nabasprisham Deeptam. And it is extending in all directions. And not only that, it is terrifying. You are glowing like the all-consuming fire of time. He says, Kala nala sannibhanani. So he says, Kala means time, Anala is fire. So you are like the fire of time. And therefore, he says, I don't know, because there is no beginning, no end. I cannot find my bearings. I don't know which direction is where. And not only that, I am completely unsettled. So Arjuna, he asks for this vision, but he recognizes that he is not even able to handle it because it's, see, we say that we want to see God, but if we actually see God in this way, we are more than anything bewildered and awestruck. And the Arjuna gives voice to that. He says, Disho na jane na labhe cha sharma prasida devesha jagannivasa. He says, the whole universe abides in you, jagannivasa, but I don't know which direction is where are my bearings, I don't know where I am. Everything is so confusing. I just see that all the various warriors, Bhishma, Drona, Karna, they are all entering you. And it is now very gruesome too. He says, all of these warriors are rushing into your mouths and they are getting stuck between your teeth with their heads crushed into powder. So this is the gory sight of time. When we say again, vision of God, it involves everything. It involves the beauty of creation. It involves the grace of sustenance, but it also involves the terror of destruction. So everything is the expression of the same Lord. So here now Arjuna sees the heads of the army men, all the assembled warriors who are all about to die. Krishna reveals that every one of them is entering his mouth and their heads are crushed into powder. And just as rivers all run towards the sea, all of these so-called heroes of the battlefield, they are all running towards his mouth. And another example he gives is like moths. He says how moths rush towards flame. Yada pradiptam jwalanam patanga vishanti nashaya samridvegaha. So just without recognizing that they are seeking their own death, these moths rush headlong into the flame and die. And this is used in many poems too, this simile of how moths run into flame. And this can be said in both positive way and negative way. The positive way is when the ego dissolves itself in the supreme, in the flame of the supreme being, and that is the way to submerge the ego. Many poetry is even written in this vein. But the other way, if one doesn't recognize it, then the entire being is crushed anyway in the flame of time. So he says, it's even more gory. Arjuna says that I see you having these bodies coming out of your mouth half stuck, and there is blood coming out, and your giant tongue is licking this blood. So this is how gory the vision is. It is not a very sweet sight, the Vishwarupam, as people may imagine. One cannot handle it. And so he says very vividly, he says, you are licking and swallowing on all sides the various bodies of all these beings. So please reveal to me who you are in reality. I cannot handle this. So now Krishna replies, he says a very famous verse. He says, Kalosmi lokakshaya krit pravruddho. He says, I am time that destroys the whole universe. So in fact, this verse again is very famous because, as many may know, Oppenheimer quoted this verse when the atom bomb was invented. He said the only thing he could think of when the atom bomb went off, the first test was successful, was this line, Kalosmi lokakshaya krit pravruddho. I am time that destroys everything. And therefore, Krishna says you don't have to think about anything as to whether I am doing it, whether I should do it. You should just do your duty, and thereby you can be my instrument. This is also a very famous verse. He says, Nimitta matram bhava savyasachin. Savyasachin means Arjuna is a great warrior, as already revealed in the last chapter. Among divine opulences, one of them was Arjuna. Krishna said, among Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Savyasachin means one who can launch arrows from both arms with equal dexterity, ambidextrous. He is so fearsome warrior, and yet he was having weakness. So Krishna says, there is nothing for you to feel weak. Recognize that everything is done by me and you are only an instrument. He says, Mayi eva ete nihataha purvameva. All of these are destroyed by me already. So this goes to show that everything is as ordained. And Krishna says, all of these are ordained to die already. Nimitta matram bhava savyasachin. Therefore, you simply become the instrument and do your duty. And thereby you can kill Drona, Bhishma, Karna, Jayadratha, all these great warriors, and do your duty and protect dharma as it is ordained by me. So listening to these words with arms trembling, Arjuna saluted, fell prostrate, and then again he glorified Krishna very beautifully. He says, O Krishna, the whole world is extolling you, glorifying you. Everyone is fleeing away. The demons are all, and the sagely beings are all coming towards you. Everyone, starting from Brahma, is all glorifying you because you are the only imperishable supreme being. He says, Ananta Devesha Jagan Nivasa Tvam Aksharam Sadasat Param Yat. All of these verses, every verse is very beautiful in this chapter, as in every chapter. He says, Ananta, O Supreme Lord, Infinite Lord. Devesha means one who is the Lord of all the demigods, all the devatas. Jagannivasa, that means again the one in whom the whole universe abides. Then he goes on to say, Tvam Adi Deva Purusha Purana Tvamasya Vishwasya Param Nidhanam. So again he repeats many of these because he's so overwhelmed. He says, you are the ground of the whole universe. You are the supreme abode. You are both the abode of the universe and the expression of the universe. Everything that there is, the wind, death itself, fire, sun, moon, all of these are you. Therefore, he says, I offer my obeisances to you in the front, in the back, on all sides. Because he recognizes that one cannot find or locate God in one direction. Every direction in reality is the Supreme Being. When we recognize this, then we see him only everywhere. So he says, I offer obeisance to you in all directions. Namah purastha adata prishtastate namostute sarvata eva sarva. I offer obeisances in all directions. And then he says, he says very sweetly, he says, I have always taken you as my friend. See, now what Arjuna sees is not the friend. He sees the divine being, infinite in form, revealing his true essence. So Krishna, because of this form he is revealing, Arjuna is now recognizing this and says, I have taken you as my friend, and I have taken all kinds of liberties with you, sitting next to you, playing games with you, dining with you, and now I realize that you are no ordinary being. You are the entire universe, and therefore, please forgive me for any transgression. He says, you are the Father of the world. You are the Lord of all that's moving and unmoving. You alone are worthy of worship. There is none equal to you. There is only one supreme being. In fact, here in this Shankaracharya, he writes in his commentary that there cannot be more than one God, because this is very important to recognize that there can be only one supreme being. Shankara writes, Nahi Ishvara Dvayam Sambhavati. He says Ishvara means one. There cannot be two. There are many who are bewildered and think, and they use the word God in plural. God is singular. And moreover, it is not just monotheism. It is that beyond monotheism, it is that God alone is. That is the vision of Bhagavad Gita. That is Advaita. That is, there is nothing other than God. Everyone, everything here, and that's what this chapter in particular reveals, is that the entire universe is an expression of God, and therefore it is not just that there is only one God, but there is nothing other than God. So that is what Arjuna says here, and Shankara also beautifully explains. Nahi Ishvara Dvayam Sambhavati. There cannot be a second when we speak of God. Therefore, Arjuna says, I am offering obeisances to you, and please bear with me. And he says very sweetly, you bear with me as a father bears with his son, as a friend with a friend, as a lover with a beloved. He says, Piteva putrasya sakeva sakyuhu priyaya arhasi deva sodum. So he says, O Lord, I have treated you as a friend. Please bear with me, not just as a friend, perhaps as a father puts up with a son, or a lover with a beloved. And all these are beautiful expressions, because these are all the ways in which we see, even in Bhagavatam, the various devotees have intimate, loving connection with Krishna. Yashoda and Nanda have this beautiful connection as father and mother. Arjuna himself, Uddhava, many friends who are very dear to Krishna. And then all the gopis, Rukmini and all the queens are all in the mood of being the beloved consorts. So one can relate to God in many ways. And all of these ways are mentioned here in summary. And of course, Bhagavatam expands on it in great detail. And therefore, Arjuna says, please bear with me. And now he says, after saying that, he says, now please go back to your original form. I am not able to handle this form anymore. I asked for it. Now I don't want this anymore. So he says very sweetly, please go back to the form that I'm used to. Assume the form that I've always seen you in as my friend. Now that I know who you are, I would like to see you back in the form of my friend. So Krishna says, O Arjuna, I have revealed to you the supreme form because you ask for it. This is the cosmic original form that nobody easily beholds, but I gave you this vision out of my grace. He says, Tejo Mayam Vishwam Anantam Adyam Yanme Tvad Anyena Na Drishta Purvam. Nobody has seen this before. I have revealed this to you. So this is a very special vision. That is why in the entire avatars, Krishna avatar is so special because Krishna is Swayam Narayana. Bhagavatam says Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. And even in Krishna avatar, this vision is very special because this is where he reveals fully. There are many places where he reveals in a glimpse, like when Yashoda sees in the mouth of Krishna the whole universe for an instant. But this is the first time Krishna reveals in such detail to Arjuna and thereby to everyone through Gita. So he says, and this cannot be realized. So Krishna says very importantly, this wisdom, this vision and the wisdom, it's not to be realized by studying Vedas, doing sacrifices, making gifts, engaging in rituals, because that's again the wisdom of the Upanishads too. Upanishad says the same thing in Kathopanishad. It says that only through grace and Shraddha, that is when one is sincere and the sincerity invites grace, one sees it, and that can happen to anyone who is sincere in recognizing the truth of God. But if one thinks one can do this through acquiring knowledge, through acquiring any experience, through rituals, then it's not possible. So that's what Krishna repeats here. So he says it's not possible through any of those. It's only through grace. And because you are a very sincere and very dharmic friend, I've always, Krishna has said many places, Arjuna is very dear to Krishna. And Arjuna represents the perfect human, that's why. Because he always takes the right position in every affair. Even though he has immense strength, he doesn't use it ever indiscriminately. He always is on the side of dharma, and yet at the same time he can fight very valorously when necessary. So Arjuna is the perfect embodiment of the human. That's why he's called Nara. So it said Nara, Narayana come together. Narayana is Krishna, and Nara means the human is Arjuna. That's why Arjuna is chosen as the student and as the one who can behold this vision. And then Krishna now reveals to him his original form. He goes back to his familiar form, and now he is again Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, the beautiful form. Iti Arjunam Vasudevas Tato Uktva Swakam Rupam Darshayamasa Bhoyaha. He revealed the original form, and now Arjuna is very pleased. He says, your gentle form has given me my equanimity back. He says, Drishta Vedam Manusham Rupam Tava Saumyam Janardana. He says, this form is gentle, Saumyam, O Janardana, and now I have regained my equanimity. So this form that he was revealed is too much to handle for any human, even Arjuna, but it only gives us a glimpse that this is the essence of Krishna, essence of the Supreme Being, that the whole universe is non-different from him, and it involves everything. So we cannot fathom the immense glory of God, which involves everything from the sweetest to the most terrible. It's all part of the divine energy. And therefore Arjuna is now glad to just see the simple, beautiful form of Krishna. And Bhagavan, Krishna here says, you are fortunate to be revealed this form because of your devotion and your Shraddha, which is not available through anything else, but only through undivided devotion. Therefore Krishna again tells how one can realize God only through undivided devotion. He says, Bhaktya Tva Ananya Shakyo Hi Aham Evam Vidho Arjuna Nyatum Drashtum Cha Tatvatena Praveshtum Cha Parantapa. He says, only by undivided attention, Ananya Bhaktya. When undivided devotion is there, love is there, and when one offers everything to the Supreme Being, only then one can realize him. He says, by concluding this chapter, Krishna says why Arjuna was revealed this vision and how anyone can recognize this by surrendering fully. He says, whoever does work, recognizing that it's all the work of God, my work, Krishna says, who makes me his supreme goal, remains always surrendered unto me, and he is free of attachments and free of any malice towards anyone, he realizes me. So, this is the conclusion of how one can realize the Supreme Being. One doesn't have to see, therefore, this terrible and awe inspiring and fearsome form. This has been given to Arjuna and to all of us to just let know that the whole universe is Bhagavan himself. But one can realize it in a sweet way by surrendering everything. He says, Mat karmakrit, mat paramo, mat bhakta, sangavarjitaha, nirvaira sarva bhuteshu, yaha samameti pandava. So that's how he concludes this chapter by saying, one who makes me the supreme goal, mat paramo, mat bhaktaha, one who surrendered unto me, sangavarjitaha, one who is free of attachment to anything, but nirvairaha sarva bhuteshu, no malice towards anyone. So when we see this vision, we recognize that everyone and everything is an expression of the same Supreme Being. There is good and bad and terrible, everything included in this. So there is no malice toward anyone. Everyone is as they are, doing what they are ordained to do. When we recognize this and act with wisdom, then we remain in peace no matter what happens outward. We engage in our duty, and that duty, depending on the situation, may involve even as terrible as engaging in a war like Arjuna is asked to do now. So it doesn't mean being in peace is to remain completely without any conflict or without any challenges. Conflicts are always there, challenges are always there, and one has to do the right thing, but all the while recognizing that it is the Supreme Being who is the energy that makes one do anything. So my work is not my work, it is the work of the Lord. And everyone, everything is also an expression of the same Supreme Being. And therefore, when I recognize this, then engage in the duty that one has at any given moment with full attention. And that is the way to recognize him as the Supreme Being here and now. So with this beautiful chapter concludes. It's a very special chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is often quoted too, as we saw Oppenheimer quoted it, many Indian Navy or Air Force, many other pop culture references are there to this chapter because of the fact that it is a very visual chapter. And we see through this the all-pervading nature of the Supreme Being, who is the essence of all.